Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, lovely to see you, Michael.
Yeah, thanks for coming onto the show. How did we meet?
Oh, goodness. We met at a silent retreat and we were being silent. And at the end of the retreat, I noticed some still, you seem to be a little bit agitated or not. I could sense there wasn't a sense of fulfillment with the you're questioning, not getting the answers, the questions answered to why you may have been attending a weekend meditation retreat, silent retreat. And so I intuitively picked up on that. And when we were able to talk at the last probably half an hour of the retreat, I wanted to come and just acknowledge that because it wasn't even seen or acknowledged. And as a spiritual mentor myself, and as a psychotherapist, I could feel and sense that that acknowledgement. So I just wanted to say hey and handed you my business card, and then we kept in touch from then.
Yeah, so upon leaving that retreat, it was in the Blue Mountains, and after a few days and everything had finished up, I just had this gut feeling to just stay a little bit longer, like don't rush to leave. And I went to the kitchen and I waited there a bit, and then you came in and you said, "Oh, I was just looking for you."
Yes.
And then that's how we had our first proper real conversation.
Yeah.
Since then, I've spoken to other people who had been on silent retreats, and someone on the last show recommended to me to try the 10-day Vipassana.
Vipassana.
But I don't know if I'm built for that.
With 10 days.
When people suggest something or there's a new challenge, I have this thing in my mind. Well, I can do it. So on one of the podcasts, we had a guest called Malachi, and I was telling him about my water fasting experience, and he suggested to try dry fasting. And then I did that 3-day dry fast just because there are a lot of health benefits to it, I understand, but it's just more for that mental challenge. But as far as a 10-day silent retreat, you can't read, you can't do anything but sit there and meditate.
Yeah, and very in uncomfortable postures as well. I've done a 7-day silence, and it's like the second and third day, like everyone gets a bit stir crazy. You could just see it. It's like everyone's getting stir crazy by the third day, and then it does settle, especially if there's satsang in the evening, and then who is ever leading the silent retreat is, there to hold space to discuss things. And also to like the Vipassana is very very specific to, as you said, what you can do and you can't do. And the comfort is huge. I believe that it's, cross-legged sitting. I personally run silent retreats, but my silent retreats are on beautiful, big, comfortable bean bags. And I don't encourage, they also say, don't look at each other. And, it's sort of like, even don't look at each other, don't make eye contact. It seems to be a little bit impersonal, which is okay for whatever other sort of philosophies are and what they're based on. But I think, just seeing people with you and acknowledging them, and, just with a smile, it makes it a more like we're doing this together. And that when it's just like no looking at each other's eyes and just sitting there in lotus position, it's sort of like, but these are the ancient traditions, and again, like what it is that you're doing through investigation and an inquiry it's very important, especially for this state of evolution that's occurring, this spiritual evolution that's occurring, that we're sort of like stepping out of the old dogma traditions, be it ancient, the ancient wisdom teachings, which are very, very important where it comes to philosophies, but the whole church dogma and the whole Hindu yogic, the very seeped in the deep tradition of these religious practices can be quite uncomfortable, but very challenging, and which can be, as for yourself, this could be like, yeah, like I want to do this, I want to meet these edges, and I've done it all in the 90s, so yeah, I'm on the other side of it, saying when you come to my silent retreats, you get comfy beanbags and you look at each other and you smile.
But what happens in that week of silent meditation? Is there a point where you just sort of give up in trying to control your mind, or trying, because for a while I imagine you're just sitting there saying, stop thinking, be clear, and then after a while it just
Yeah. It's like the what I call the fan blades. Your mind's just going stop, and then they eventually start slowing down. It's just something that happens, that by the third or fourth day, you're no longer tapped into the matrix and that craziness, and that field of not only your own inner field of consciousness, but the field of within everyone around you. So going to these retreat centers, which are usually in nature, so being in nature is very much more conducive to being able to experience the and get the benefits out of the retreats themselves. But it does slow down. Something just happens. There's a surrender. So it's not about giving up, or it's more like there's this innate surrender. It's like when you, rather than fight, when you fight it, the ego fights it. So the ego's fight kicking and screaming for the first 2 days. It hates it, because it wants to be in control, and we're actually moving further and further away from the attachment to the thoughts and the drive that drives us, our actions, it drives us, it motivates us. And when you're actually being deliberately put in a position where you're turning your attention inward into meditation, when you're turning your attention inward into silence, and silence is the ground of being, which God is. So meditation is actually returning us to our true nature. And once we kind of fight that battle, the battle between the ego and the soul, and the ego just surrenders and gives up, and then the soul can just, it can just flourish, and then there's just this natural, I love this, and then you go home from it, and then you just want to stay that way, and then it becomes a struggle to go back into your normal daily life, where you've got family and getting up for breakfast and talking on the phone and social media. So yeah, but it gives you a taste. It gives you a taste of what's real and what's available. Yeah.
I remember when we had a talk when I got back from my last trip to Colombia and I did the ayahuasca. Everything you had just said, if you had told me that a year ago, would have went a bit over my head. But now, after experiencing firsthand what it's like to be in touch with both your ego and your soul, and know what it feels like to have them fighting over space, and knowing what to give more to at what time, and it can be a real, if you don't embrace that, you could end up having a real identity crisis.
Oh, absolutely.
And when I had that ego death and I come back, I've decided to embrace my ego again, but then I embraced it too much, and then felt that I just wanted to share with everyone my experience. And normally I'm a really quiet person on social media. I don't post very much, but after that, I just wanted to share with the world how I felt. I felt like the main character of my story, and I think there's got to be a balance, and that's where, you know, if you're out there sharing your experience, you're robbing yourself of learning new ones. Not completely, but just readying space to. And if you're out there uh, telling your story too much or falling in love with your own story, you're robbing yourself not only of new experiences, but your ability to appreciate other people's stories as well.
Well, I really think that we're meant to, again, and I can get that there's that that fine line between the spiritual ego taking this and running with it versus waking up, having your own truly deep and intimate experience of awakening, and then wanting to share that, broadcast that, because what is also the aspect of ourself that is at one with the divine principle itself, God, whatever you call it. It's like we are an evolutionary process. So we are meant to be going, well, I'm waking up, and now how do I serve my brothers and sisters and all of humanity? I can only serve that through using language, because language is language and our voice is a communication device for the divine as well, for everything. So it's also very okay to be going, like, I want everyone to experience this with me. That's how we learn, that's how we grow, that's how we find each other, especially on social media. And so again, it's that fine line, but I could see what you did, and I thought this was like super cool. I thought it was amazing, and it was great. But then you were very mindful of how much you were going to push it and share it. But again, has this come? These are the sort of things that's born from it.
I believe the right thing to do is to plant seeds. That's what I've learned. You tell people how to live, how to think, they feel judged, and they'll push away any advice that you have. It's different if someone comes to you for advice, but if you see, it's very hard to wake. You can't wake people up. People need to wake up themselves. Otherwise, they will reject what you have to say, because a lot of us subconsciously we choose to. Well, that's what I've learned recently. After waking up, I kind of want to live my life asleep, but I know the truth. In a sense of, I kind of, when we watch a movie, we don't want to think this was directed and this was filmed and produced and these are all actors. Sometimes we watch a movie and we want to invest emotionally, and we want to just suspend our beliefs. And that's what I feel like I'm in this situation. Okay, I want to go back to living. I want to go back to enjoying life without overthinking everything, without analyzing, without, I kind of not necessarily be asleep, but just to experience life at its fullest, without overanalyzing.
The ultimate goal is that. So what I found is, because I've been on this journey for 30 years, right, and there is this driving impulse of wanting to get out there and do all the new modalities and learn all these things, and then there's an integration process, and so that it's like, it feels like that's what you're sharing. It's sort of like and it is important to have the integration process, and that integration process is like, I've learned all this. Now I want to just sit back and I want to integrate it and embody it, assimilate it into life. I've had this awakening. Now it's like, I want to know, how do I assimilate this awakening to all these other altered states and all these dimensions and all these realities? How do I now assimilate all of those different states of consciousness into this third dimensional reality? So, it is because there is so many different parallel realities. And then we actually have the ability to actually live all of these different parallel realities and to enjoy them and to dance in that. Bringing the fifth dimensional reality and to be having it embodied into the third dimension and to be living it as a father, and as a son, and as a, and same with me as a mother and a grandmother and all of those sorts of things. And, so the whole integration process and the assimilation process is as equally as important as the waking up process. So otherwise we stay up here in all of these, up in the peace, love, and groovy world, and we stay up in all these altered states of consciousness, but we stay up in that, peace, love, and groovy world, and then, but it's not a complete, it's not full, it's not wholeness. Wholeness is to be able to know that you can move into these different states consciously at choice, into these altered states of of cosmic and higher dimensional frequencies and being. And then you've got to get up in the morning and go and put petrol in your car and talk to the people down at Coles when you buy your groceries. There's got to be that. And otherwise we can get lost in this. Then this is where the ego can take hold of all of this glamour and all this great stuff, And this is only all temporary. Like, this here is temporary, yeah. And so this is also about being able to know that we've got to be able to really balance these different states of consciousness.
How was your experience? Was there a story there? How old were you when it happened?
Yes, so I was 29, nearly 30, and I was living in the country down at Cootamundra, and I was married, had 2 daughters, really happy marriage, and I was pregnant to have my third child, my third daughter. And so I was 29, and she was born, no problems with the birth at all. She was born, we had never thought there was going to be any problems. And she had come onto this earth, and 24 hours later she left. So she died when she was a day old, and that was like my holy hell, like what the fuck moment. I don't think we have to bleep that out because I say this a lot, but it really was. It was that it was surreal. And I went from being, having just my life just ripped out from underneath me. And then again, it was so surreal that, and the whole, the body goes into such this state that's unexplainable, but it does go into like everything courses, all the adrenaline, all of the fight and flight, everything just courses through your body to a point where it's like you feel like it's drugged, and it's not drugged with any sort of chemical substance, not that you can get from the doctors or from the chemists, but it's actually this natural drug, this numbing effect of our own biochemical response actually just occurs. And so yeah, that was the start of my journey. But prior to that, I was an atheist, didn't have anything to do with churches, a whole lot of bullshit, not interested. I've never ever had looked at anything spiritual, maybe the odd psychic reading, when I was younger, just to be curious, but nothing big at all. And so then, I went through 2 years of really deep grief and bereavement, like suicidal. I didn't want to live on. I didn't want to stay alive. It was too painful to stay alive emotionally. I stayed alive for my children, and they were my saving grace. But where it comes to the experience of the pain, it was unbearing, and that is where that it gets me that so unbearing, where people do say, I can't stay here anymore because it's too painful, so painful. And so I persevered with that, and then I remember I was putting the clothes on the line one day, and I'd taken the kids to school, and I remember looking up at putting the pegs on the clothes on the line, looking up at the sky, and just like still in this haze. This is 2 years later, and I just went, if there's a fucking God, you better show up. I can't do this anymore. This is hurting. This is exhausting. If there's a God, please, please show up. And then this other part, my ego is going, you don't even believe in God. So that was a bit stupid. So there was this is like, there was this angel on one side saying, pray. And then on this side, it's like, but you don't believe in God. So it's like bullshit. So even then I could start seeing these two parts of my mind were already at war. And so, yeah, within a week, I was watching Oprah, and that was when Oprah was on every week. And she had a lady on called Betty Eadie, and Betty was talking about her near-death experience. And she'd written a book called Embraced by the Light. And so she was explaining how she had a near-death experience, died, saw herself on the operating table, looked up, went to the light and went through the tunnel of light. And so that was my first understanding of near-death experiences. That moment was like, wow, because nothing else was working, The clergy came around, the church came around, I'd go away. What God would be so damn cruel? You tell your God, if your God's so bloody good to just stop that. Don't do that anymore. That's cruel. That's the cruelest thing you could ever do. So your God can just get out of here. I'm not interested. I want my daughter back. If your God's so good. So there was this piss off, I'm not interested. And then there would be the grief and bereavement counsellors, and, they sort of helped because they could understand the feelings and everything, but there was no answers. There was just nothing was being answered correctly. And so I went and bought this lady's book and read it. And before I knew it, I'm going, oh my God, like this sounds really cool. This makes more sense than anything that I've read or heard. So, and at the end of the book, it says, well, how do you develop? How do you make this connection with the soul and with this God that is not this God that you hear about in church? This is a God that's nothing like that. And so, she's put in it to do yoga, meditation, Reiki, spiritual development. And then that was it. I've gone, I'm going to do that. So I went back to the newsagents because there's no internet. It was in 1992. Went back to the internet and back to the newsagents, bought a magazine. And then there happens to be a psychic magazine, which I would never have bought. And then on the, halfway through it, it's got, are you looking for spiritual awakening? And I'm like, hell yeah, that's exactly why I've got this book.
Sign me up.
Yeah. And it was Reiki. And it was like, and I was living at Cootamundra, which is 5 hours from the Central Coast. And I've looked at this and I've gone, hang on, that looks like it's a Central Coast number. So I've called them, and it was like only, like I was born here on the Central Coast and lived in Woy Woy in Yamina, and this Reiki master was just around the corner, and I would never have ever would have known this in my life. So I came back from Cootamundra, came back up to visit my parents, went to do Reiki. Everything just happened. It's just like from then on, it was the beginning, and all of the phenomena just kept on coming 100 miles an hour. I was in dream state. I was talking, being given pictures of Mikaya Yasui, the founder of Reiki, and I didn't know any of this. I've just been given this picture of this lovely, kind-looking gentleman, and then I'm sitting to do Reiki, and this picture's in front of me on the altar. Honest to God, and then it just never stopped. It's right to where I am today, and it's been incredible. It's just got bigger and bigger and bigger to where I am today. The phenomenon, and that's exactly what it's been. Phenomenal.
In that accepting and that surrender opened up a gift for you?
In being willing and curious to the possibilities of there being something else, and the pain of everything, that nothing else answered it. So it's sort of like, so it's a little bit like finding hope. Well, there's a tiny, tiny little doorway, a little window of hope here. And if I just look in there, then I'll give this a go. And it was saved everything. That tiny little willingness to look into a different world that I was avoiding and having nothing to do with. Because anything spiritual back then was just church, not even yoga. It's like there was a yoga teacher, she was from Germany, and there was one yoga teacher in the whole of the Riverina, and yoga wasn't like it is today.
Why does the church have something against yoga? From the people, the really religious Christian practicing ones, have these conversations with them. They say, yeah, yoga is frowned upon, and meditating is frowned upon. Well, why is that?
Because we will find our own empowerment. We'll experience our own self-realization instead of their realization. It's like they can keep in control, whatever they can keep in control of us, because yoga and meditation and Reiki, and even now, breath work and everything, which is quite interesting, because all of the teachings of Jesus, of Jeshua, all of the original Aramaic teachings, the Lord's Prayer, the Beatitudes, is all about the breath. So when I see people doing breath work, I go, duh, it's like the breath is the spirit, the breath is God, the breath is love. So you want to keep on breathing and doing all that cathartic breath work. It's because you're inviting and you are receiving, inviting and welcoming the downpouring of the divine into your body. Of course it's going to shift. Anyway, so back to that's why, because they'll lose control over the congregation and the money that goes into the congregation to keep everyone financially supported.
I just feel that the religion is doing a lot of people, the churches are doing the service these days by steering them away from practices.
Absolutely.
Breath work. And these young people got so many friends that my sister's one of them. She's going down the road of religion. Some Christian friends. And it's great to see, especially the youth, follow something that's positive, but there's just a lot of misguidance there. But it's okay if it's going to guide them in a good direction, and then they'll figure out the intricacies a bit later when it comes to soul searching. They'll get there eventually. You can only go down the wrong road for so long before you start really feeling that urge to seek the truth. And the road to your own self, your higher self, is greater than following any church, any book.
It is an intimate and a unique journey, and the church is no different than doing anything. Psychic development is going to there's so many aspects of and ways to wake up and then to travel down. Like I did. So from that moment, I went to do Reiki. Then Reiki led me into Buddhism. So then I studied deep into Tibetan Buddhism and was going to Canberra with meetings in the Buddhists with Sogyal Rinpoche, the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. It's like, oh, this is really cool, because it wasn't Christian, it wasn't the Bible. And then there was a wall there. So it's like, okay, well, there was a wall that stopped me because of the rules and regulations that come with Buddhism. And so then I kind of came back again. So I'll just take all of the goodness from this, the understanding of compassion and understanding the energy centers and all of the understanding of Buddhism and the meditation. I'll take that. Yep, I'll just take that one and put that in my bag, and then I'll move on, and I'll go and find something that's going to be more suited to this Aussie mum who's at home with 3 children, making Vegemite on toast, changing nappies, something that is more conducive to a Western style life. but is still going to help me connect up to this wisdom, this love, and this higher power, this source, this primordial being. It's like, I want that. But every time when I go to a religion, it would stop that. It would be a wall. No, unless you do this and yeah. So I backed off that. Then I started doing yoga. The Reiki was good because I could just continue doing Reiki. And that itself was then showing a lot more. I was starting to have my own altered states of experiences. I was having my own out-of-body experiences, my own visitations. And this was just from Reiki and just from the meditation and the practice itself. So I didn't actually have to have the philosophy of Buddhism at that time. So the energy medicine was actually really working, and it was a much more gentle way. It was like my mental state wasn't developed enough to actually have taken fully on Buddhism or Christianity at that time and known how to assimilate that into this world, into this Western world. So then I did a lot of healing modalities. It led me to Kriya Yoga. So then I started doing yoga, doing Kriya Yoga. So Kriya Yoga, and back in the 90s, there was Kriya Yoga, there was rebirthing, breath work, there was, Osho's, all the Osho's meditations. And so in the 90s, and again, which was occurring in the 80s and 70s, but I wasn't there then, but even in the 90s, what we're seeing reinvented now in the 2020s, the 2000s, is that, the breath work and that's happening today. Well, we were doing that back in the 90s, and then those before us were doing that back in the 80s and the 70s. And again, like Ram Dass was doing plant medicine back in the 60s, So it's just continuing. It's like this, it's just this cycle of evolution. It just keeps on going over and over again. So then when I started doing Kriya Yoga, then I even got even more experiences. So then I started studying the Bhagavad Gita, the Sai Baba Gita, and getting into Hinduism and yoga. Same thing. Then I came to another standstill. It's like, they're vegetarian now. That could not be assimilated into my life. It wasn't conducive to my way of living. And then there came some more rules and regulations, do's and don'ts, cans and can'ts, especially don't eat cows. So again, it's like, as a Western woman, I was like coming up against like, these all fit. If you're in India, it works, So then what happened though with Kriya Yoga was that I started to get even more visitations. And in that moment, I was visited by the Spirit of Jesus. This is me, who is an Antichrist person. I was like, I don't want to have anything to do with that. Don't want to have anything to do with him. And then I had a visitation from Jeshua, and he asked me if he could talk to me. And I said, sure. What do you want to say? Because I'm not really interested in speaking with you. And he laughed, very gentle, very beautiful. And he said, I understand why you feel that way. What man has done to my word is not actually what I came here to teach. Could he show me what he came here to teach? And I said, sure. How are you going to do that? Because I'm not going to church and I'm not going to read the Bible. And he laughed and he said, it's not my building and it's not my book. He said, if you're willing for me to show you, I will show you exactly why I really came here to teach the world. And I was like super discerning. And but I just, there was that part of me that went, well, okay, a little bit like, you saying, I'll give it a go. Well, I'll give you a go, Jesus, but I don't think you're going to win, And then he actually, in that moment, he took me up and out of my body and took me into absolutely everything. Like I became the spirit, the essence, the consciousness of everything in existence. All third dimensional, everything of the earth. So he he took me into nature, into the center of the earth, into the trees, the wind, the rain, the animals, the particles and the protons, everything.
He showed you what?
He showed, yes, he showed me exactly what consciousness is, what consciousness really is, and what God is. And I've kind of like come back into my body and like I'm shaking, and crying because it was like, what the fuck was that all about? Because I don't believe in this, right? and then he said just one more thing before I go. I just want you to know that if you will allow me to, if you'll be willing for me to come back, I'll come back to see you. And I said, sure, okay, good luck. And then his heart just opened up and just like this light just beamed out of his heart and just flooded me, and I was like, yeah, this was amazing. So I've came out of that crying, and then I've got on the phone and I've contacted my Kriya yoga master, and I told him what happened, and he was like, oh my God, I'm so happy. He did that to me too. And the best part about this is he does it to people that don't believe in him. Because he knows that the people that don't believe in him are going to talk about him in the way that he comes to them in the right way, in this way especially. So that was super profound. And then a year after that, I left the country, moved away from my husband, brought my kids with me, gave the kids a choice to live with me or live with their dad. Moved back up here to the Central Coast. I do not know why. Why? I don't know why. In that same year, I went to do my Reiki Masters, and I came up to the Central Coast, and my life was just, again, same thing. It's like nothing's been the same. And about exactly a year to that day of him visiting me, then I was led to a meeting at Gordon in Sydney or Chatswood that way. And I went to see this guy that was talking about consciousness and awakening. And I went and sat down with him and listened to his talk. And through that talk, he started talking about, he was in the army, and he was talking about how he was in the army, and he actually had killed men in the army, and how distraught he was, and how he came home with PTSD. And he was then recommended that he went to do yoga to help him with his PTSD. And so he did. And then, a year, so long after he'd done his yoga, then he had this visit from this spirit, and it was Jesus. Same story. I wasn't a Christian, although I was brought up Christian, just like I was. Yeah, it's just your life, your culture here. And he said, and he was telling his story, and I'm just sitting there going, that's exactly what happened to me. So I went and saw this guy at the end of this, and said to him, he came to me, visited me exactly the same way. And he said, well, I can help you now, keep that connection going. And he did. And that's it. It's just been phenomenal ever since that moment. It's just got bigger and better and better and better. I went to Israel, came back from Israel, and had another transmission, which took me into cosmic consciousness, took me right into the womb of the belly of primordial being, the actually into the void. And when I was there, it was like, oh, this is it. This is what we're all seeking. This is the peace that passeth all understanding. This is what he was talking about. And this void, this is like the stuff that Jody Spencer's talking about, and a lot of the cosmic consciousness people are talking about. And this, my relationship, my own conversation with God was, I'm going to give you something to teach people. And so with that, I came back not that I went anywhere, but my consciousness came back, and then I started teaching what is today the Inana System, which is I am presence. So it's a meditation practice that I got from the cosmos. So in between all that, it's just been mad.
Could you expound on what Jesus had said? His teachings were misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
In what sense? Just more that people end up worshipping him when it's meant to be. Because from my understanding is Jesus came here to tell everyone that we are all sons of God.
Yes.
God is within us.
Yes, the offspring of God, not just I'm not the son as in I'm the boy, and so therefore I'm, it's like the son of God, the children of God, the offspring of God, and all of that, you and I, you would do the same as me and more. I don't know the Bible.
Yeah, neither do I. I'm not religious, and I don't. It's only from what I've learned growing up as a child a few times. I go to church, or as an adult, accompany my friends to church.
Yeah.
Or just hearing what they try to preach to me, and then pairing that up with what I know in my own divine self, in my authentic being, my higher self that I've connected with, that I understand what he's saying, and it just feels as though his words are being misinterpreted. Because
absolutely,
when I read some of those verses in the Bible, and if I look at it from a metaphoric sense, I kind of connect and understand it in some ways.
Yeah.
And if you're going to take everything in a literal sense, then it can be quite confusing.
Yeah, and we can adapt it to our lifestyle, So I guess it was shown to be more like Chinese whispers. You it's a classic example. You say one thing and then you hand it around 20 people and come back and it's totally different. Well, that's his example. His example is like Chinese whispers. I said this, and then 200 years later, it came back as this. But that's not what I said. Yeah.
And you believe that he existed, there was a Jesus?
Yes, I do. Yeah. I do believe that he existed as a messenger, just like Buddha and all the other, the masters that have been upon earth. And there's these different ways. So the lineages are all very different. But they're all leading us home. So so we've got Christianity, and then we've got the 12 disciples, and then all the different branches of Christianity. But Buddhism is the same. There's all these branches of Buddhism, and there's all these branches of Hinduism, yoga. And they're all really leading us home in different ways, because I can see the ways that they all lead us home differently, and that they've all got a very important impact. So Hinduism and yoga, from its point of non-duality, is it takes us into the non-dual aspect of I am nothing, everything is emptiness, I'm eternal and boundless and nothing, but then everything at the same time, and then Buddha came from Buddhism came from Hinduism, and then Christianity came along after Buddhism, and they also had, they were here on the earth for different cultures and the different ways of what we were living, So in India, and with Hinduism, and they don't have the same access to food the way we do, India. That's why the cows are sacred in India. Cows aren't sacred in Sydney or out in Penrith, or it's like cows aren't sacred in Australia, because we actually live under a different cultural, spiritual philosophy. Because we have a whole different agricultural setup. And so one cow is going to feed, it's going to continue to feed a family and a community in India. And yet we actually have an abundance of other sources of food here in the Western world. So that's why Buddhism and Hinduism were more about, like, the cow is sacred because it is a source of food and protein for us to survive. Here in Australia, that's just not the way we did things. The Indigenous people didn't do that. Like, if a goanna came in front of a tribe and offered the spirit of the goanna, because if the children were, if the community was starving, the witchetty grubs and the goannas, and besides the berries, so there's still the berry picking, but if you want to keep your family alive, and there is a goanna that you can actually, have to take its life and respect its life and give gratitude for its life, so that you can feed your children and family, so that you can then move on to the next camp and survive, and which is human survival, then that's what will be done, And so our religions are all relative to our culture, and so in the Western culture, the heart that Jesus came to speak about, the breath, the Holy Spirit, the soul, the heart, and the embodiment. It's not just about the ground of being, the non-dual emptiness, the nothing, the void. It's not just about being compassionate to all of humanity. It's about embodying and living from the heart. And living from the heart actually has virtues of many. Living from the heart has love, it has compassion, it has stillness, it has silence, it has, it has so many virtues as well. That's probably more my answer as to why that happened, why there's control. And in the time that Yeshua left with his uncles at 12, he went to India, and he got taught then by the yogis, and he was a bodhisattva. So he was taught by the Buddhists, he was taught by the yogis. Then he came back, talking about hands-on healing. So Reiki actually comes from the study of how Jesus did hands-on healing, and then it goes back to Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism. So my lineage of Reiki is actually is the Tibetan Buddhist lineage.
I used to wonder why there to be a Messiah. Why couldn't God just come out and spread his message? And I realized that he needs a voice, because God is everything. God is us. God is the plants. God is the sun. You need something to carry that message, and God is encompassing. It's just everything.
It's everything, yes.
And how can everything come to explain itself?
If it didn't have us, we'll just take 1 minute and I'll turn the light on for the lighting here. So I see God, or the primordial source of being, primordial being, as an evolutionary process. It's evolution. It's a 14 billion year journey of becoming, of waking up to itself as love, and it's waking up to itself. The unconscious becoming conscious in everything. So through gesture, through words, through actions, through sight, through sound, through everything. Yeah. And everything is made of the light. 14 billion years ago, there was nothing. And, this is the concept of non-duality. And 14 billion years ago, there was nothing, but out of nothing, something arose.
So if everything is consciousness and love and light, then in positivity, why do I feel that the vast majority of us have to go through a traumatic experience to have this awakening process?
So so let's say the primordial being, source, consciousness, God itself, not him, not her, it, them, the one, the all things in one. In order for it to experience itself as the light, in order for it to experience itself and to awaken up and to experience itself and to know itself as soul, as that light, it had to separate from itself. And in the separation from itself, it had to be an energetic separation and movement away from itself. So it had to move away from itself in order to know itself, to come back to itself. And the movement away from itself is like the drop out of the ocean. So the drop out of the ocean had to separate itself from the ocean in order for it to know that it's not a separate drop. It's actually, you put that drop back into the ocean and it knows itself as the eternal ocean of self. So it's the point of separation where the consciousness or the soul, the spirit itself says, where am I? Who am I? In one moment, we're all things, eternally boundless, formless, infinite. And then in a split second, we are separate from that. And yet there's still consciousness. And in the separation from that as a point of light, there is light over there and light over there. And then we see that there's light somewhere separate from us because we don't remember at that time that we actually are the drop from the ocean. So it's in the forgetting. So it's in the forgetting that who we are in the moment of the separation, that fear is born. And then when fear is born and separation is born, then that's when we start then creating our life based on that point of separation. And so on the highest level of consciousness, separation and fear, like fear began the moment the Big Bang occurred, so to speak, as a metaphor, right? Rather than taking it into physics. So then what's happened is there's just been this continuation of this journey of that the separate self, the fear, the dark, or where there's the darkness come into it. So then there's the contracted self. So as the soul then actually moves into the form of a body, it contracts more and more and more, and that contraction is more fear, it's Then here we are, planted on this earth plane, and we're actually going, who am I? I'm in relationship to that person there. I'm in relationship to that person there. I'm a daughter. I'm a son. That's my mother and my father and my sister and my brother. And then we start playing out this whole dream, this whole illusion of separation. And we think and we believe that this is our real world. That this is actually our reality. This is our relative reality, the one that we live in, putting petrol in the car, talking on a podcast. But the absolute reality, and the absolute truth of who we are is this point of light that's separated from the source of divinity 14 billion years ago, that is one with that and always has been. And it's just been on this trajectory, this evolutionary process of just returning to itself, waking up to itself as soul, waking up to itself as love.
And that's what I feel, that when you get to the bottom of the rabbit hole, you realize that we are just the universe experiencing itself.
Exactly. Yeah. We're actually the void. Remember it. We're actually that piece of the void that I spoke about. The peace that passeth all understanding. It's like the void, this place of this timeless, eternal, empty, silent nothingness. We're here to remember that that's who we are, but the movement of that, the wave that rises from that ocean, the wave of that consciousness in all its different dimensions is love. So we are the third dimension, or we're in the third dimension, remembering that this body is the vehicle that carries, that is the carrier and the broadcaster, and to make that love remembered and visible, and then to remind it to everybody else. And so then when we touch that truth, then we get excited, and then just like I want to tell everybody. And that's what we do, and that's what this is born from. It's wonderful, especially this day and age, because now we actually get more opportunities to go globally with this message, and so more people are waking up because consciousness itself, God, is evolving to this point where we're doing this. We weren't doing a lot of this. I mean, podcasts were happening before COVID, but this hasn't been happening. This level of social media and globalization has only been happening in the last 2 decades. Because I remember, I remember getting a computer in the 90s and in the late 90s. And you spend hours and days putting in this program just so you could get a little burst of light on your screen. It seems pretty ancient, but to where it's come today in 30, 25 years, it's profound. It's so rapid, it's insane. But it's exciting because it's evolution. It's just God going, this is the biggest yes, I think. This is as big a yes as what the Big Bang was.
I think we are due for a mass awakening, and I think everything is falling into place for that to happen. Just on a political stage, the world is falling apart, and at the same time, people looking inward because their whole belief system is just blowing up in their face. Everything that they thought, especially a lot of people who realize that what they see on the TV, the news, is lying to them. Once they catch wind of those lies, and they start to look into why they're being lied to, and then realize that they're being poisoned, and then go down that rabbit hole, the more people that happens to, it'll be a shift, an evolutionary shift. And once we have more people, the majority of people who are awakened, who are in touch with their spirit, this collective consciousness will shift reality. I believe that we live in this broader dimension, this electromagnetic field, where if enough of us believe that the world is round, the world is round. And if enough of us believe that the world is flat, it becomes flat. We create our reality.
We do. That's the parallel with that. We've got many parallel realities that we can believe in and we can create from. And yeah,
it's
many.
like Schrodinger's cat, right? We're both outside of that box. Both possibilities exist.
And you can choose. Well, you can choose whatever reality you want. You can choose what. See, what I see is what's been going on globally over the last 4 years, and this massive awakening that's occurring. I see what's occurring as these different parallel realities, because I can see that what breathwork is today was the same as what it was in the 90s and the same as what it was in the 80s. It's just a different parallel reality. Yeah. What something was today could have been, I remember Y2K, when they said all of the internet was going to go off. I think that was 2000. Everything's going to stop, the fears back in 2000s because all the internet was going to collapse, and it's just collective fear, and it does. It just keeps on moving us forward to different states. We're becoming very we're in charge of this whole narrative, and these different realities, and what you believe in is actually and that still goes. That's old philosophy. Energy flows where attention goes. If you want to put your attention over here and you want to believe that this is all conspiracy, then off you go. But I can guarantee you that where you put your attention on conspiracy theories, it's just going. But it doesn't mean that in your reality, if your reality is I believe in conspiracy theories and everything going on, then that is what your soul needs to be doing. But my reality is not the same as your reality. And my reality actually has me in a place of total peace. No need to buy into any other narratives. And by not buying into any other narrative, and by maintaining, embodying, maintaining, and sustaining the inner stillness and the inner peace, the essence that God is, my reality will then continue to just bloom and grow and create from that. I've watched it happen. I'm watching what's happening. While ever we actually move into the state of the embodied presence and know ourselves truly as this highest essence of our being is love, pure love, light, and that we keep our attention inward and in aligned with that one, miracles will happen. And you won't get caught up in the shit of the world. And miracles will just keep on happening. More things will come to you that will mirror. So you mirror, I am one with the divine, I am light, I am love, I am here as the source of love, I'm here to make that love visible, to be the voice for that love. Then that's what's going to come back. The universe is going to go, okay.
Well, that's the law of attraction, essentially.
It is, and it's true, and it works. So where you choose to put your energy is going to be up to you, and that's whatever reality you're going to get. My reality is just bringing me nothing but abundance and phenomenon, and it's beautiful. And yet I can see where, I can see it playing out. It is like everyone's on this computer game. You're right. Everyone's like playing their own game. I'm playing mine. You're playing yours.
A lot of people say, "Oh, why do all these bad things and all these keep happening to me? Why do I go through so much adversity?" Well, it's because I don't know. Maybe before you get here, or subconsciously, you like overcoming challenges. Right? Maybe you want to be the hero of your story, and to be a hero of your story, you need to overcome something. So people tend to focus on the negativity in their lives as something that's hindering them. When you start looking at everything that happens as possibly a lesson,
mm-hmm.
or just it's part of your growth, mm-hmm. then outside of a tragedy, you can never have a bad day, really.
Absolutely. That's so true. Because otherwise I'd be going, why did bad things happen to me? Why did see where my head went was my head that was still has Christianity running through its DNA. It was like, I'm being punished. I'm a sinner. Well, it didn't stay long because I just went, out you go. But again, on a cellular level, on a collective consciousness, and on a cellular level, on a subconscious level, there was a part of me deep in the very bowels of my own my subconscious was, I'm being punished by God. What did I do wrong? This is my karma. We don't say there's karma in Christianity, right? But again, it was like, I'm being punished by God because that's what God is, a wrathful God. Therefore, I've just had my daughter die because I must have been a big sinner, mate. And therefore, I don't want to have anything to do with your God because your God's a punishing God. And so even though I wasn't Christian, it's still like it's energetically still in my matrix. It's horrible. Of course, it's not like that anymore, but I could see the moment where that just a fleeting moment came past and went, oh, my God, what if this is why? What if this is maybe I'm meant to go to church? Is this because I didn't go to church? Is this because I haven't been a Christian? All the bullshit that goes, it's toxic. It's horrible. All this conditioning and all of these belief systems of not only your own belief systems, but your belief systems of your family, your culture, and now collectively, like the internet and globalization has now given us a bigger collective field of belief systems. So we're getting further and further away because we're picking up on everyone's beliefs and everyone's this collective consciousness. So it's good in one way because we're waking up collectively and more globally, but at the same time, we're still getting all these other stuff. You get on the internet, you watch all this stuff, and before you know it, I mean, you only think something now. You just think it and have a conversation with someone, and then you pick up your phone and it's on your Facebook reel.
That's because your devices are listening to you. But that's another subject.
I know, right? I mean, but how fucking spooky is that? Sorry. How spooky is that? How crazy is that, right? It is amazing. Oh, my, laugh. Okay, you watch that. Watch this. Big Brother's we're not getting away from anything. Anyway, just with something that comes with that, though, when I had this realization of who I truly am and what my soul contract is and what every soul's contract is the same. And that is, we are here to wake up, to awaken, to remember that I am a soul, I am light, I am love, I am infinite, I am boundless and pure and kind and loving, I am humble and vulnerable, and I am here to be open to hold space for all of those suffering, just like what Jesus did. So we're all here for that. So when we know that, and then we have to keep our focus on that, then all of the bad things stop happening, right? So, why did my daughter die? Why did my relationship not work? Why did the second relationship not work? Why did my car break down? Why isn't that person not talking to me anymore? And this is how, like, what I was kind of giving you that example about, I'm supposed to be live in the studio and I didn't make it. Oh my God, like, what's that about? And again, because sometimes things like that can happen. Now, in that moment, I could have gone through, oh no, I feel so guilty. Oh God, I could have turned into my own, why did something bad happen?
Wait, for the context, just for the listeners that don't know what you're talking about. So Robin, I invited her to the studio for to record the episode of the podcast, and she assumed that I got the message today 2 hours before saying, hey, what's the Zoom link? I said, Zoom link? No, we're doing this in studio. But in fairness, you would have assumed that because you live quite far away. So Central Coast is an hour and a half drive.
Yeah.
So then I said, oh, no, it's
live.
And so, but rather than, it's more of okay. So when things happen the way I see it, it just
happened
obstacles,
that way.
Right?
Yeah.
And you kind of just got to make the best with what you can do.
Yeah.
And hopefully there's a lesson or something good comes out of it. For me, my lesson today was, okay, well, this is the first remote podcast that I'm doing. And the team, thankfully, just got onto it straight away and changed the configuration.
Yeah, and here we are.
And here we are.
And now you're ready to talk to people internationally.
Yeah, it looks super cool. And, I wasn't ready to do a remote podcast, but Robin just expedited the process. So here we are.
How cool.
And I got a new appreciation from my team to just change things up so quickly. Really
and so this is great because that's what your mindset did. Your mindset didn't go into anything negative or worry, like neither did mine. It's like, oh, okay, what's this all about? Whoops, there's lessons in here. But what I met was then it's like, but you and I could have both gone into different different mindsets. I could have gone into feeling really guilty and really bad and really horrible, and then I could have gone into my own unworthiness and I've let you down, and oh my God, like I could have spiraled into the parts of myself and my trauma and my separation from source that doesn't think that, that thinks it's in control of everything, that doesn't know that everything is perfect. And I could have gone down that rabbit hole, and yet I didn't. And then it was like, and then I just like forward that over to you. So, okay, there must be a lesson in this. Wow, this is exciting. And just be mindful, just as a thing, be mindful if there's any response for yourself. Are you feeling, if you're feeling bad, if you're feeling like I've let you down or you've been misunderstood. And so it's like, I use that as an example to say, like, this is how we do create. So we can either go down spiral down into our own darkness and our own shadows and back into our deeper trauma of not being good enough, not being worthy enough, being a failure, not being heard, not being validated. We could have spiraled down into that, but luckily we didn't. We just like tick, 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 and before you know it, we're here. And now, it's going to be wonderful because we're going to be able to look back at this in years to come. And while you are interviewing everyone around the world, and I'm going to say, yeah, that's what started it. It's exciting.
Had this talk with my son recently where I told him, like, how many times have I told you not to do that? Keep doing that. And he looked really disappointed with himself and said, yeah, I just keep forgetting. And I said, why do you don't have to be so guilty, right? As long as you just forget, you forget. I'm just here to remind you, because that's my father. Mm-hmm. It's like, I know, but I feel that I've let you down again. And I said, look, as long as you're just being your honest, best version of yourself, mm-hmm. you don't have to feel guilt for making a mistake. Mm-hmm. And that's life. You're going to make so many mistakes. You're going to be imperfect. Just embrace it. As long as you're honest and you have good intentions, if you make a mistake that offends someone, or you say the wrong thing, or you miss an appointment and you let some people down, it's going to happen. Don't beat yourself up. And if they're going to take it personally, that's on them. Mm-hmm. Be the villain in their story if you have to. Just live your life loving yourself. Don't ever not love yourself. And now he owns his mistakes. He just goes, okay, I'll learn from that. I'm not going to feel so guilty anymore.
Nice. Yeah. And things like guilt and unworthiness and however it is, like all of these words, guilt, unworthiness, betrayal, whatever,
just attract the worst life for you.
Well, and they're also, like what I was sharing too, is subconscious. It's like the subconscious is the shadow aspects of ourselves that were it's been hidden and shut down in our energy field, so in our cells, neurologically, in our cells of our body, in our energy centers, if that's how we understand it to be. And so these things are actually trapped in our subconscious, in our unconscious, subconscious, and they do play out. So my example would be, if I would have gone into, oh my God, I feel terrible, I've let Michael down, I should have known better, I'm a failure. If I would have gone into that, then because I'm a transpersonal psychotherapist, so transpersonal psychotherapy is about an existentialism. It's about making sense out of all these things and where they come from, and the psychotherapeutic relationship to how life unfolds. And if I would have gone in, moved inward, so this is about not trying to work it out in my head or work it out there or blame anything out there, go, okay, this has happened for me. As a soul, I have had this experience so that I can go, right now, I'm feeling unworthy. I'm feeling like I'm a failure. Well, Michael doesn't think that, but that's how I'm thinking and feeling. And so I would have to go into, where is this familiar? Where does this come from? And when we turn our attention inward and breathe, go inward and breathe and go down and into usually our lower chakras. It's like we follow like the breadcrumbs about how long has this feeling and this sense of failure and unworthiness been it's being held in my field, right? It's held in my cells, it's held in my chakras. Oh my God, when did I see? And straight away I'll have a memory that will say, I remember when I told one of my friends that I would, they could come back to my place after school and we could go and make cakes. And then we've come to the end of the day and I've said, I've forgotten. And they're all excited. You're coming back. We're coming back to your place to make cakes. I've gone, oh, no, you can't because I didn't tell my mum. And then with that, it's like, I'm a failure. I've let my friend down. So what's happened is those sorts of memories and cellular memories are kept down and locked in us as I'm a failure, I'm not worthy. Back then, when I was 6, when this happened, then I was not thinking how to work that out, and there wasn't mobile phones to ring up and say, "Oh, Mum, can we come home and make cakes?" and and to tell my friend, "Oh, that's my fault. I forgot all about it." It's like we weren't doing that. We're not doing that sort of communication at 6 years of age. So it gets locked down, it gets shut down, it gets held in our memories. The feeling of unworthiness, the feeling of failure stays locked in our field. So energy medicine.
That must have been big for you if you still remember it all those years later, if that actually happened.
No, it didn't happen. I'm just using that as an example. Okay. Because I know examples, right? But I can tell you that that's how we live. That is how we actually do live. A lot of people. And you're a golden child, so you're a bit different.
What do you mean golden child?
Well, it's not like you. It's like you already have this. It's like you already have this knowing. I mean, I don't know because I don't know your earlier years and how you were prior to in relationship and growing up, but you've been able to find a golden child. I mean that in the sense of like you're awake and you're now giving your wisdom over to your son, and you're living this very gently within your own being, and you're discovering this for yourself now.
I definitely didn't grow up this way. I was asleep until about 30.
Okay, all right. Well, that's what happens, right? So if anyone's watching this and they're not 30, they've got something to look forward to. Okay, well, there you go. So, yeah. So, same.
Had my dark night of the soul 30.
Okay. All right. So same, exactly the same then. Yeah,
I didn't really embrace it until I was about 33. So I was 2 years of being at war with myself.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's interesting because that's about the same stage with me as well, and a lot of people. I just see you as a golden child because I just love you and I love your energy and I see you for who you are and this wisdom that you have sharing today. But again, if anything comes up in your life that pushes your buttons, you're going to be doing the same thing. You could, something else might push your buttons. Today didn't, but maybe something will happen tomorrow where something pushes your buttons. And so what I found after all these years myself is I've come to this place where I've learned that there are different, what I call them, pillars. It's sort of like in my experience now, I call the awakening process, the process of spiritual awakening. From my experience and what I share with people is called the 6 pillars of transformation. And they're imperative pillars. Like the very first pillar, it's imperative, is there has to be a very grounded ancient wisdom teaching. So we have to have a very good philosophy that helps represent and carry us from our day-to-day experiences. That could be conversations with God. That could be being with Eckhart Tolle. I'm going to use the more modern ones then. It could be studying Sufism. It's like the Kundalini yoga. They have a beautiful philosophy, right? So it's very important to have a philosophy, a living philosophy that does help us. It helps our mind. It helps transition the ego into a negative ego into a positive mind, right? So because we're intelligent beings, and so we do take information, and we are evolving intellectually and intelligently as well. So having a philosophy is really super helpful. Having a meditation practice. So the second pillar that I present and I share is like, have to have a meditation practice. So my example is when you came to the retreat at King Cumber, and it was a weekend, and it was based on a philosophy of some sort. And then the meditation is like the meditations that were on the retreat. So meditation is, so there's a philosophy about consciousness, and then there's the experience of how to experience that consciousness. And meditation is the experience. The third pillar is how important self-inquiry is and trauma work is. So it's very, very important to actually start learning how to look at your reactions, and if there's any reactions, not to just bypass them with a cool little affirmation, but to actually go deeper and be more curious to actually, what is this stuff that's coming up? Hence why there's so much amazing work with trauma, with Gabor Mate and some of the greatest trauma teachers philosophers there are today. Then we have, another pillar, which is doing our yoga and our healing modalities, chanting, doing all of this, the fourth dimensional energy medicine, connecting, doing our psychic stuff. Then we have community. Then we have like hanging out with our spiritual friends, dancing, having a good time, super imperative, just as important. And then the sixth pillar is service, just giving back globally, like then being there to be in service to the awakening of all of humanity. So it's like I have these 6 pillars that actually, from my 30 years of experience, have actually worked really well. And that's what I share with people today, is having these pillars so that you can go, do this and this and this and this and this. Not just this, but this will get you so this will get you very far. But this with this will get you further, and this and this and this and this will get you further again. Yeah.
Well, I think that's better wrap this up, because you gotta pick up your
Yes, my granddaughter. Yes, very soon.
So,
and plant medicine's in there as well. Like that can come in the modalities, like, because I've experienced plant medicine myself. My experience in plant medicine today versus in the 90s are totally two different things. Because, like plant medicine for me today was like super easy. Like, there's nothing here that's not here when I just have had my own experiences through meditation. Nothing here that hasn't taken me where meditation has taken me into altered states of consciousness and into the primordial being itself. So I didn't need a substance to take me there, because it's slowly developed over the years. Yet for other people, they are the windows, the doorways in, just like Reiki was the doorway in for me at the time, and different things back in the 90s.
People would assume that ayahuasca or psychedelics is what leads them to that spiritual experience, but really it's just an aid. What I learned is that you can get there on your own.
Absolutely.
And I would if people say to me, "Oh, should I do this to explore my spirituality?" I said, no, you should find a way to quiet everything, to shut things out. And I feel that taking psychedelics and drugs is an easier way to do it, but it's not the right way. And
it's like the false god, I mean, the religions talk about the false gods, and it's temporary. It's a glimpse in.
Well, I don't think that there's anything bad about it.
And
the practices are really when I took the ayahuasca, there's so much culture and beauty in it,
Mm.
and it was such a pleasant experience. But
Yeah.
if I was going to compare it to something, I'd say, well, if you go and do some meditation and some inner work, some breath work, that would be the equivalent of a cold shower, and doing psychedelics or ayahuasca or mushrooms or LSD, that's like
Yeah.
having a coffee. So
Yeah.
it's just a shortcut.
Yeah.
I don't have anything against plant medicine, but plant
No.
medicine is not the answer.
No. And I'm really glad that that's the message that you're going to be sharing with people as well.
Oh, I think
Well,
my screen's just gone all
it
rainbow.
has. You have. That's funny. Well, and on that note, how perfect.
Yeah.
You know, what a great message. What a great message. And then we just have rainbows. So that's cool.
Well, thanks for coming onto the show, and
Thank you.
really appreciate it.
Wonderful.
And I'll
Yep.
put a link down for all your for your retreat,
Yeah.
and that you have coming up, and your
Awesome.
books, and your contact details if anyone
All right,
wants to find you and learn
Yep.
more about you.
In New South Wales, Australia. Yeah. Local. All right, Dale, thank you so much. This worked wonderful, and thank you to your team there for making this happen.
Thank you for coming on.
All righty. See ya.
Bye.